Do you read me?
Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me?
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Get some. All right. What's going on, everybody? Another baby Friday. Friday's Eve is upon us, and the week is almost over. Thank the Lord. Baby Jesus sitting on his manger as I rock my tuxedo t-shirt. You know, it's all good. Hey, we got a really good show. I'm super excited for the guest I have today. It's finally able to track him down, busy man. But before we get to all that stuff, let's get all the pleasantries out of the way. This show is brought to you by Castle Global Services. At Castle Global Services, they have an array of services both for your home and your commercial business. So anything from Wi-Fi, internet, mobile, streaming, all that good stuff. They also have merchant services if you want to process credit cards, and as well as both on the residential and commercial side. They also have healthcare, great affordable healthcare services. So whether you don't want to keep paying some crazy prices on their Obamacare, or even your employer, you can go in and check them out. It's called Impact. It's a fantastic service. I highly recommend it. You'll be able to insure your entire family for less than $400, and at a fraction. And you can see pretty much anybody. You can see anybody. Actually, there's no networks, no partners, none of that crazy trash. You can go see whoever it is that you want to see and get taken care of. And also, the show is brought to you. I'm sorry, let me go back. Check it out right there on the show bio, castleglobalservices.acnibo.com. And the show is also brought to you by Primerica. Hey, are you if something happens to you or or your loved one, that both of you are bringing in an income, are you both prepared in the event of an emergency? God forbid that income falls off and now you have to move on, and with the broken pieces of your home. Are you taking care of your family correctly? Well, go ahead and check them out right there. Same thing is on the show bio. Check them out. Primerica is a fantastic company. They've been around for 47 years. They're top 10 A+ rated companies when it comes to income protection, asset protection, and financial services. Go ahead and check them out and give them a call, because God forbid an emergency happens, and then those loved ones, pretty much stay behind, and that with nothing to be taken care of. I know we fall, as service members, we fall under, we're like, oh, we got, SGLI, VGLI, and all this other stuff. But trust me when I tell you, that is not enough to take care of them. And it costs a fraction of a cost than, all that other stuff that you hear out there, universal life policy, IUL, and cash value or trash value policies and such. So check them out. If you want more information, feel free to hit us up on the show. We'd be more than glad to point you in the right direction. And last but not least, hey, the show wouldn't be here and what it is today if it wasn't for the great American Constitution, as well as this country. So what does that mean, everybody? Is that, hey, we're all about, one, the right to bear arms, as well as and number one, freedom of speech. So the amendments. So if you don't like what you're listening, right? If you don't like this sexy ass accent and you want to move on to something else, hey, that's fine. Then go ahead and check out something from sitchradio.com. I highly recommend. I podcast that. That's an awesome show. Or the Todd DeBow Show. That's another one. And the one by Aaron Seberg, which is called Combat Vet Vision. By the way, all these folks on those podcasts are prior service, are veterans and prior service members. So, go ahead and check them out and support your local vet podcast related show. All right, we got all that stuff out of the way. We got a great show. I got this. I've known this dude, and we go way back. I mean, like way back, like rocking chairs. So not only is this dude a person, him and his wife are both personal friends of mine. While in the Marine Corps, I also got the opportunity to work for both of them. So they're friends, they're mentors. He's a brother from another mother. She's a sister from another mister. Let's bring Mr. Kevin Franum to the fold, baby. What's up, Mr.
Frank?
Kev? How you
What's
been,
on,
brother?
man?
Nothing much, nothing much. Finally, I'm glad to have you on the show. Finally, I know you're super busy. You got man, for a guy who is retired both from the commercial, from the regular 9 to 5 and from the Marine Corps. You're busier than one-legged man in an ass kicking contest. How you been, bro?
Doing good, man. 6 Saturdays and a Sunday, bro. 6 Saturdays and a Sunday.
Pretty much, yeah. That's how much your life is, bro. Kevin, why don't you give us a rundown of your Marine Corps, your military Marine Corps career, and let everybody know who you with?
Yep. Well, Kevin Franum, retired Marine Corps in 04, from 84 to 04. Spent a lot of time at truck company, go overseas, went to FSSG, came back, and right back to truck company again. Did that 3 different times and retired out of truck company. In the meantime, I was also a Milmo operator and instructor and stuff. So with was Warren and Schmidt, Gunny Schmidt at the time, and then Master Gunny Warren when he finally retired after 30 years, couldn't hold that coffee cup any longer. So been one of those guys. So enjoying the good life now on the ranch here in Texas. So here we are.
So for those who know, those of few folks out there on the show that don't know what Milmo is, why don't you enlighten us on that is? Because you've had a pretty good fucking career in the military, man. I mean, I can say that you can't complain because you've got to do what you love. And then, yeah, so tell us a little bit about that Milmo stuff.
Well, the Milmo thing is the military motorcycle operators course. And like I said, back in the day, I don't know, back in the 80s, we originally had the KLR 250s when the Marine Corps came out with those, way underpowered, big old beast. It was like riding a fat cow, and then no power. And then we finally stepped up and got the 650s, which was a lot better piece of gear. Worked very well. So got an opportunity to do that back in 89, I believe it was, or 90. Went to the 250 class, and then in 2000, when I came back from Okinawa, Gunny Schmidt, he was down by himself at the schoolhouse, and he knew I rode in the desert and stuff. So, hey, you want to come down and help me out? I'm like, sure. So spent a lot of my last 4 years in the Marine Corps teaching people to ride motorcycles, both street side and on the combat motorcycle side.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when you got that gig, and I was just like, holy cow. I mean, who else but you, one guy that's been pretty much around, playing with toys his entire life in the Marine Corps. I remember that, you were that when, that guy that will bring in, roll into the motor pool with your race cars, your funny cars at the time. And I was like, hey man, who is that? Who's that dude that just showed up? Oh man, you didn't know that's Staff Sergeant Franum. I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? He goes, oh dude, that guy, he plays with toys both in and out of work. I'm like, what? So I just remember, so you've had a pretty good career as far as like, your resume when it comes to, racing. I mean, that's been pretty much a huge part of your life, right?
Yeah, it has been. Like I said, whether it was racing the dwarf cars, they look like the little Legends cars back in the day, and then racing motocross and racing desert stuff on dirt bikes in the desert. And now I'm out here at the ranch, built me a modified, so it's ready to go. It's ready to go to the track here on the 25th of March when Abilene picks back up again.
That's awesome, man. Now, like it's, I know that you and I, well, our families, we've been going to the desert all the time. But I mean, I've always known you as that guy who, if there's a problem, if there's a solution to a problem, Kevin pretty much knows it. Even Kim one time, just tell Kevin, trust me, he'll figure something out. And it's true. I mean, you've always been that guy, the go-to guy, have you not?
Pretty much, my nickname a lot of times in the Marine Corps, Sergeant MacGyver, because I could pretty much kind of fix or take care of something. Sometimes it wasn't always above board, but like I used to tell people, if you don't know about it, you don't have to share a cell with me. So we're good.
Yeah, no kidding, man. So the theme of the show today, I want to rate and just, I guess, pick a little bit on our MOS and the vehicles that we got to ride in. I was kind of watching this other guy a little bit and just taking a page from his show. But I mean, we've been around a lot of equipment on our lifetime. So when I came in talking about the motorcycles, I believe there were the Hondas, the 250s. That was the only reason why I joined the show. Joined the Marine Corps. I was like, well, I'm gonna, I chose the MOS I chose because I was like, I'm gonna work. I love motorcycles. I'm gonna go work on. And the recruiter was like, yeah, Johnny. We have motorcycles. And no shit, I got to my first unit right there for first SHRIG, so first surveillance reconnaissance intelligence group right there, and ninth crime. Shout out to my first unit. They were taken out because somebody was doing wheelies up in the back lot and crashed into a fucking 5-ton, and then they took them away.
Yep. Somebody's always got to be the fun sponge, and we wonder why there's rules because somebody's already done something stupid. So yes, it is there.
What'd you think of those? You kind of mentioned a little bit, but what's your take on those old Honda 250s, man?
Well, the ones I was always around with, they were the Kawasaki's, but yeah, they were an okay piece of gear. Obviously, somebody in the cubicle there at headquarters Marine Corps had no clue what they were doing when they decided to do this. It's typical big bureaucracy government stuff. Somebody in a cubicle makes a decision, usually based on cost, not need, and they either pay way too much for it or don't get you the right piece of gear.
Yeah, I call those. Somebody told me, I don't know if you ever heard of this acronym. It's a GOBI idea.
Yes.
A general officer, bright idea. Hey, you know what? Hey, sir, I got a great. So probably some major, some lieutenant colonel is like, hey, sir, I got a great fucking idea. Let's bring in these 250s and let's see what happens. Not thinking like, hey, these things. They may be underpowered. Especially when you're wearing all your battle rattle and all that stuff. Which, by the way, you got to do on the first push, did you not?
Yes, I was riding one. So it just, like I said, those little 250s. Again, once you start adding a whole bunch of gear to it, and most Marines aren't little people. If we were all 5'5" and weighed $105, they'd probably been an okay piece of gear. But most everybody's 6 foot tall and weighs 250 pounds. Especially with all your gear on. They were just way underpowered, way under suspended. It just wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. No.
And sometimes their thought process is too, well, if we make them underpowered, they won't get in trouble. But we've seen what happened with the Humvee. So that's a perfect example of using something that's underpowered and people won't get in trouble. Because Marines, if it's 50 pounds of feathers or 50 pounds of lead, it doesn't matter. But we all know it takes up different volumes. And like I said, when you load a Humvee down with 2,500 pounds of lead instead of 2,500 pounds of feathers, it's a huge difference. But again, if it fits, it'll work.
Yeah. If it fits, it ships. Oh, hey, that sounds good. which, by the way, great segue, because that is the next piece of equipment. I was gonna bring up. Now, I have a soft spot. I know you. Obviously, you came a little earlier than I did, so you were exposed to the Jeeps. And some of the other equipment before we got phased out. But I guess for me is, I came in at a time where the Humvee, the A1 version, was at its, at its peak, I guess you can say. And I love those things. I mean, yeah, they, a lot of people say, well, you can only go so many because they're governed. They got the governor on them. But I thought it was a great piece of equipment. And again, we only find out how good something is once we really battle test it. You know what I mean?
Check. You can take things to 20 palms and abuse it to see if it works. But when you actually get in country, you have lack of support. That's when you really find out whether things work or not. So yeah, I when I went to Motor T school, we had the old Gamma Goats. They look like a mini LVS with 6 wheels. We had the old M15 ones known as the Jeeps. And we had the old 50 series and the 800 series trucks where they're all standard and stuff. And you get people who never drove a standard transmission before, you end up with neck injuries that you get to tolerate the rest of your life.
Oh yeah, no, and those suspension, you could tell, because I used to do it. I was on the other side of the fence, although I did have my licenses pretty much for all types of equipment. but you knew if that operator was having a good day or a bad day, how gentle they were when they went over bumps, because on a 5-ton, it doesn't matter if it was 900 or 800 series, you could feel every fucking bump on the road, dude. Like fuck it,
Yep.
here we go, and grind it till you find it.
When you end up in places like Okinawa and stuff, and trying to see a new guy, especially a new PFC or a private route of Motor T school, you try to teach them to drive in traffic like in Okinawa with a 5-speed. It is horrible, and the road, the roads are horrible. The trucks are way too big for the roads and stuff, and it makes things very interesting. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and on the mechanic side, when you were having a good or a bad day is when you're doing, what, fuck this, I'm not gonna do a clutch, the proper clutch adjustment on an 800 series, 5-ton. So because you want that thing to engage right away, but sometimes it's like, shit comes back and bites you in the ass is when you're the one who goes to the dispatcher and you check out that same piece of equipment you half-ass fixed, because here you are, you're jamming your fucking leg all the way down. You're like, switch, please, switch.
It's like trying to find a dimmer switch on the floor. Trying to get the clutch to disengage.
You're like, oh god, same thing, because the air brakes on the 900 series weren't that bad. It was okay because and by the way, whoever thought, don't get me wrong, I love the new equipments, the MTVRs, great piece of gear, whatever. But the 900 series air system on those brakes, I mean, were pretty much fail safe. I mean, if you ran out of brakes, the system, they
locked up.
Yeah, the brakes locked up.
Yep.
I mean, slowly too. It wasn't like someone, great. Whoever came up with that's a fucking genius in my book.
Yep. I like what I said. Then like I said, the diagnostic procedures on some of the old trucks, the air over hydraulic stuff with the air packs and everything else. You say, well, is it the air pack that's leaking, or do we have a hose that's leaking? It's like, okay, where's the leak coming from? Why don't we have no brakes?
Yeah, or it was a relay valve, which they all sat on each axle. Clean one of them bitches out with WD-40, boom, hey, pressure, we're good, let's go,
Well, like I said, having those old trucks too, when I was a truck company, and we used to haul a lot of grunts, and that was back in the day when you could go up down Rob Law Road and stuff, go up to the training areas on top. And I used to tell Marines, hey, if the freaking on them old trucks, the brakes let go, drop them axles in the ditch, dude. Let that thing grind to a side, let it grind on the side of the mountain until it comes to a stop, because all those devil dogs in the back of that truck, and that ain't worth going over the cliff. Tear the truck up. We can replace it. It's already 50, 60 years old. So give reason to buy a new one.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I have a soft spot for, that old equipment. I remember, I don't know if you remember this kid. His name was, well, we called him Red, but his name was Sedurna. He was on the maintenance side of a truck company. When I got out and I came back in, I was sent back to truck company. And this dude and I, checked in, and young guy, good mechanic. I will say that he was coming from Okinawa. Anyways, one day we're coming back from one of the field extras, and I'm driving, and the truck had no all electricals went out. It was an 800 series, and he's like, "We're not gonna make it." I'm like, "Dude, I'll bet." I was already a retread, what they call a retread. And I told this kid, I'm like, "I'll bet you my paycheck that we will make it back, no problem." He goes, "How do you figure?" I'm like, "Dude, it's a stick shift. None only but the starter, and and pretty much the lights. That's what needs power. After that, this thing has a carburetor. We'll make it back as long as we and even if I stall it, if we're going down to downhill, I just bump this bitch.
Bump it again, get it going again. Yep, them old trucks would run, especially those old multi-fuel motors too. They didn't care if the diesel was any good for the most part. They might smoke, but shit, they just ran and ran and ran. But man, they handled like crap. You had like the tractor steering wheel. You go back and forth half a turn at a time with a free play in it. You're just like, wow. Trying to drive those things at 29 palms for 3.5 hours. You were exhausted when you got there.
Yeah, no, it was trying to drive one of those things. It was like remember my old motorhome that I had, the Winnebago?
Yep.
Yeah, that thing used to just float on the road. People say, "Man, how does it feel like driving?" I'm like, well, the best way I can describe it is it's like trying to bang a hippopotamus on roller skates.
Pretty much. It just kind of floats out there. But I mean, that old equipment, it definitely served its purpose. So like I said, you figure, them Jeeps have been around since World War II before we finally switched to the Hummers, which again, typical Marines. If you can break it, we're going to find out how, and it's easy. And it's like first thing we found out: underpowered, under suspended.
Yeah.
So,
No, and that's a great analogy. It's like the old saying. I don't even heard it. If give a Marine something, they'll figure it out. It's like, hey, if you give a Marine a bowling ball, 3 things for sure are gonna happen. They're gonna break it, they're gonna lose it, or they're gonna try to fuck it. Pretty much. It's like, oh, hey, you know what? Whatever. It's like
got holes. It's
Yeah.
kind of soft and round. It's like,
Yeah.
I forgot where I put it. It's like, damn it. But yeah, I
Exactly.
got you there. But
Exactly. But those, the Humvees, man. I mean, again, I have a soft spot, and I mean, and yes, driving. One thing is driving in 29 Palms. Yeah, it's pretty hot over there, but I don't think nothing could ever prepare us, driving that piece of equipment in Iraq. I mean,
no.
over there, it just I think if I could describe it, and no offense to the country, but it's pretty much the back area of the testicles of Satan. I mean, that is how hot that fucking place is.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's just 29 Palms gets hot, but it's like, God, it gets that place just gets really hot. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
But as you look back on, like I said, some of this old equipment, where it's came from, and look where the Jeep came from, World War II, and really unchanged, in 50 years. Same motor, same everything in the thing. It still didn't have an electronic distributor either. Had the old point setup in it. So I mean,
Right.
that was simplicity at its best. But again, it was to get to point A to point B is all it was. It wasn't about comfort. It wasn't about economics or anything. It was just literally about going from point A to point B, and that just getting rid of it, or getting you to getting you to the fight basically with some of your gear was it. And like I said, I know what they tried to accomplish with the Humvee, but whoever designed them little bitty seats in there with all your gear on didn't do a real good job.
Yeah. No, and I think it got better with the Humvee. I mean, I remember driving that thing in Iraq. So when when I went over, because you deployed first. I mean, you were like, with the first few people. And I even told the story on one of my shows when I talked about motorcycling, because there was a bunch of Milmos left behind. But we'll get to that in just a second. So I was what they call independent instructor. Basically, I was I was permanent personnel at a reserve unit, and we took all these reservists in country. And my A driver, or vehicle commander, was a staff sergeant on the reserve side. But the dude had just came out, because reservists can do B billets and go on the drill field. So this dude, great guy, by the way. I mean, this guy was solid. Solid. I was a sergeant. He was staff sergeant, and white guy. So I rode on my side. I put beans, and on his side crackers. So they used to know my Humvee was beans and crackers. That was the name. Hey, go get beans and crackers. I'm like, Roger that. But we had a great time. But yeah, driving this thing around in Iraq, I mean, we had all our battle rattle, and that, I mean, and we're trying to and it was an LAV, light armor vehicle unit, reserve unit, trying to keep up with those things, dude. I mean, if I have this thing, all the way mashed down to the ground. I mean, like I'm driving through to the fucking core of the earth. Wow, I mean, I can only imagine you, with those bikes and all your battle rattle, on the first push. Was there when you were driving these things around? I mean, yeah, what was going through your head? Like, oh shit, what if I get shot? I mean, because we already had doors off and shit,
Well, when Iraq pushed off, me and Gunny Schmidt flipped the quarter to see who was going to go, and he won the toss. So Master Gunny's like, "Hey, you got it, Schmidt. You get to go this time." So I stayed back and was in the rear with the gear there. I just kept training people, but trying to teach these kids. Not we were doing it, trying to teach them to ride is one thing, but then also when you put gear on them, even for a short amount of time, it totally changes everything, because now the bike handle's different. You got all this weight on you, you got your pack, your rifle, and just trying to add that stuff to curriculum to teach people to ride. It totally changed everything, because now something that was, me and you ride recreational. So, I mean, having riding gear on is one thing, because it's meant for it. there ain't a thing the Marine Corps issues you like a gas mask or anything is meant to be on a motorcycle. It's not. A rifle is not meant to be on a motorcycle. It's just not slung over your back, wherever you put the thing, it still moves around. It's every piece of gear that you try to put on there is just horrible. So, and like I said, and the heat factor. So, I mean, not alone now when, people piss and moan, oh, it's hot at Camp Pendleton. It's hot here. It's worse than 29 Palms riding them out there. But when you get to Iraq, you're dealing with even higher temperatures and stuff. And again, you're dealing with the unknown. Do you ride with the helmet? Do you ride with your Kevlar? Well, you're going to get shot in the head or you're going to crash. There's all these things that go back and forth. You kind of got to roll the dice of, do I want my Kevlar on so I can prevent a piece of frag, or do I want a helmet on? If I crash, I can survive the rock, because we know the Kevlar is not going to work for that. It's just going to bust your nose or bust you in the back of the skull. So I don't know. It's one of those. There wasn't never a good option for that. And I think, and a lot of commanders, the problem with that piece of gear with motorcycles, the commanders didn't really know how to employ them. That was the biggest thing. We spent a lot of time going out to units that had them, trying to teach the commanders, give them a quick class. Hey, do this. Here's what these things are meant for. They're kind of a scout vehicle is really what they are. Because if you lose one, you're only out a couple $1,000s. You're not losing $100,000 piece of equipment. You're out a $5,000 or $10,000 motorcycle in reality. So, but trying to get the commanders to employ them correctly. And then the other part was all the cowboys we had. Everybody, I can ride a motorcycle. I did this back on the farm in Iowa. If I had a nickel for every time somebody told me they could ride, I could have retired a long time ago. So, and then we actually get them on the motorcycle. And then there's the difference between getting it down the street in a straight line than there is to ride it off road. So there was just, like I said, it was one of those things. Somebody came up with this policy in the cubicle headquarters element somewhere that they just didn't understand the full concept. It's kind of like, then now we have the ATVs and the UTVs, the Polaris side by sides and the ATVs. That again, they have a place and a purpose, but if you don't know what you're doing with them and you have no experience with them, all you're doing is asking somebody hurt or killed. I mean, that's honestly what's going to happen. And we've seen it too many times, unfortunately. Marines hop on shit. It's like, woohoo, here we go. I know we had a couple units. People got those things out and decided it was a good idea on a Saturday night after a couple of beers in the barracks. And, hey, let's go ride these dirt bikes out of there on the fire breaks. And it didn't come out so well. So,
yeah, no. And I think, as one of the things I had to do when I was a chief warrant officer at 11th Marines is, when the Marine Corps, because I remember, well, I know you were part of the whole transition when they were trying to phase in the dune buggies with the Porsche engines on them.
Yep.
Which they have one at the Mechanized Museum, and I got to drive that bad boy. I mean, again, all good and great concept, and it sounds good. Just like what's the it's like one step above what was a Jeep. Oh man, I used to mess with, they had them at 11th Marines. They look like these dune buggy / Jeep / mini hum. What the fuck they're called. You know what I'm talking about?
They had like the BMW engine in them or something. They had air ride suspension, and it was, again, a cubicle worker. It looks great on paper, and it probably got somebody promoted, but as a working piece of gear, it just wasn't there.
It was my biggest nightmare at 11th Marines right before I retired. I had these kids. I don't know how they survived. They went out right after the power plant in that electric, what they call, where they have the tower.
Power line road.
Yeah, power line road, and then in between, when you cut from that road onto the road that would lead to to all the other camps and stuff. Anyways, right there, these kids, I don't know, you can see, but you can tell where it flipped like 3 or 4 times with these guys in it, threw them all all over the fucking place, and they walked away like no big deal. And I'm here. I'm like, wow. I was amazed and somewhat pissed off, but mainly amazed at the fact I'm like, how the fuck did these guys survive this thing?
If I had a nickel too for every time I went, oh yeah, we were only doing 15 mile an hour. There's 50 feet of sideways skid marks, and it's like there's no way you were doing 15 mile an hour and get 50 feet of sideways skid marks before you rolled 3 times. It's just, it doesn't happen. And I was bored at night. It just wasn't last night.
I'm reading their what is the thing that they all wrote and their statements and they all look the same. I'm like, what? I'm like, and I'm standing there, when I was at at any accidents, I'm just looking, I'm like, there's no freaking way, bro. There's no way, you know.
Oh yes, but hey, I give them credit though. All four of them, they stuck together. They have the story, and they stuck together. Good for them, type thing.
Yeah, hoorah, get some.
It's just you have to look them in the eye and go, bro. I know that ain't what happened, but you
Yeah,
know, if
no
it's your
shit.
story, stick to it then, because you can't. Nobody can change, because if not, it's
Yep.
gonna get ugly. But
Deny, deny, deny. Yes, Your Honor. That's exactly how it went down.
Exactly. So, like I said, I don't like it, like I said, we've got in the Marine Corps. Don't get me wrong. I think there's room, for like now the Polaris, the side by sides, and the ATVs and stuff. There's definitely times and places where those things that could be employed, but the problem is you got to keep it down to a small few, and make sure they're trained, make sure they know what they're doing. Having a little background in the civilian world maybe before you join the Marine Corps doesn't hurt either. But so many people. I've taught side by sides and ATVs at Bridgeport, Twin on Palms. I've taught those things all over the place, and in Nevada, out in the desert. I mean, I've taught those things everywhere, and like I said, I've done pretty much anything with an ATV or UTV
Yeah, you have.
possibly think of. I mean, I race the darn things, so knowing what they're really capable of. But I only rolled it twice. I'm like, dude, it's like, and you survived. Good for you both times. But I've had mine. Mine's only been outside a couple times, never upside down. And then with a barrel roll, it's like. But again, to each his own. You keep your story, stick to it. You're good. And like I said, if you walked away from it, good for you. But
yeah, no kidding. Dude, I remember kind of flipping gears a little bit, but I remember this is like around the time I just retired, within a year or so or something like that. We were invited through the Semper Ride program, and there was an event at what's that one casino? I want to say Pocahontas. Starts with a P.
Pala?
Yeah, Pala Raceway. We were there, and you were on that big ass KLR, the green machine that you have, and you had the biggest heaviest dirt bike in the whole place. And I mean, when I say you're a big guy, you're pretty tall. I mean, you're a tall dude.
I'm 6'1", so yeah.
Yeah, you were handling this fucking thing. You were zipping around the track. And here we are. I was in a 2-stroke 250, and I'm getting lapped by you and all this other shit. And then the instructor was I forgot, but we called him. I know you know him. His name is. They call him Hootie, because he does look like the guy from Hootie and the.
Yes.
And then he's talking about bikes and racing and this and that. He goes, and let me tell you something. There should be one guy in this track that shouldn't be here today. And he goes, and that's you. He goes like that to you. He goes. But because everybody, that's how you ride a bike. And I mean, it was true, man, because you were whipping that fucking thing around like you wore that thing,
Again, back when I was on active duty, I pretty much rode a motorcycle every day. Well, I was riding a street bike back and forth to work, one of my dual sports back and forth to work. I got the awesome last 4 years to work, for Milmo and the base safety side of teaching motorcycle safety. To go to a lot of these schools and stuff, which it was, absolutely phenomenal. It was a great opportunity. But again, there's a difference when you spend a lot of seat time. You're putting 30,000 miles plus a year on a motorcycle, and that's basically, you get in a car or a truck, it feels weird because you don't drive the things. It's definitely a different thing. So, but yeah, the Semper Ride program, that was one of those things. Great concept from a cubicle in Washington, D.C., but there's so many. I don't even want to go into it because I'll just get my blood pressure up.
Yeah, no, it was a great concept, and I will say that I benefited from a lot of the things in the training from it. I just wish that it was handled better, and that they solicited the input out of people like like guys like you and me and gals that actually ride and know what the fuck they're talking about, not just kind of like hodgepodge put together, the way it was. And that's another topic
for another time.
Yeah, all in itself. But
that's it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes the best laid plans go awry because people get their egos in the way. And I've seen that so many times. It's like, okay, we've lost sight of what the Marine Corps and the Marines need just to get somebody a freaking promotion or a attaboy award out of it. And it's like, wow, okay, good for you. You take the credit for that. You write yourself an award and have a nice day. If that's what it means to you.
Here's your meritorious service medal, sir. Have a good fucking time. You know what I mean?
Dude, I got out freaking, I got a misspelled K-bar plaque. They even misspelled my name. I'm like, damn. So it is what it is. I still kept it though, dude, because I'm like, this is too funny. This will be them stories we can tell now that we've been out for a while.
Yeah, no shit.
But
Kevin, well, where can people find you? Because I know, and by the way, everybody, those 3 or 4 of you that are listening to the show, if you ever want to reach out to Kevin, um, the dude, he's a fantastic instructor. I mean, the dude has got, I mean, he's a vetrepreneur. The man is well diverse, knows a lot of good stuff, and no shit. The dude is a wealth of fucking knowledge on many different topics. Kevin, where can anybody find you if they want to reach you?
well, I'm in Holly, Texas. So if anybody knows anything about Texas, Abilene is probably the closest big town. We're about 12 miles north of there. Got a small ranch up here and some cows and some horses. I got you a new horse too, Barn, Frank, because when Sass decided to give you a ride there, freaking last time you were out here, I tried her in for Clyde. So Clyde's he's a big dumb brown horse, but he's a lot more mellow. He doesn't have a bad attitude. He's like Tex. He's just got a big dummy and just likes to be there. So Sassy had her name for a reason.
Yeah, I got banned. My kids banned me from getting near horses or power tools every time I go to Texas. So
every time I seen you in Texas, it was like you were in the ER. It's like, God, is he going to survive?
Oh, shit.
Is he going to survive anymore? But no, so we're here. We're always here in Texas. Like I said, I have had some people pick me up. So my phone number is still the same. I had the same cell phone number since I came back from Okinawa in 2000. So I haven't changed that. And we've had several people stop by here. Some just stop by for a day. Some come by for a week, and stuff. I even had one of my Marines and Kim's Marines that I hadn't seen him since Okinawa. So he called out of the clear blue and he drove from Kansas City down here to spend a long weekend with us. So it's kind of a cool thing, and you see some of your Marines, and the best part about you pick this stuff up kind of like right what unit you were with and what you were kind of doing, whatever time frame that was. You kind of just pick back up like you never even left each other, even though you haven't seen each other in 20 years. So it's always a nice thing. Like I said, somebody just needs a place to crash for a night or something. You're going through Central Texas on the 20 and you're like, damn, I ain't got money for a hotel or whatever. We're not that far off the 20, about 10 miles. Freaking give me a holler, stop by. You're always welcome. If you want to ride a horse, I'll put you on a horse. Doesn't bother me. If you want to ride a cow, I put you on a cow, I guess too. So,
and you're on social media, right?
I'm on Facebook and stuff. I'm banned on Facebook again. I put some stuff out there again.
That's another whole show all in itself.
That's Kevin's another whole show in itself. But yeah, it is what it is.
Kevin, thanks so much for your service. Thanks for honoring me with your presence on this show. I know I pump you up a lot, but I mean, not only are you a great friend of mine, you both, you and Kim both, but you're always always a great staff NCO, a great leader, and a great mentor. So I just want to thank you and say Semper Fi, hoorah, gets him, and we'll definitely bring you on back on the show so we can talk some more shit.
You have to get Kim on here sometime too.
Oh no, she's next on the shoot. Don't worry about that.
Well, you get a female perspective of what goes on.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Kevin. Don't pop off. We'll bring you back, and we'll talk after the show. Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Frank. Take care, buddy.
Take care, brother.
Okay, out.
Hey, everybody. Well, thanks so much for being here. But before we pop off, by the way, here's a message from the VA. Hey, everybody. Well, that was a message from the VA. Now it's the time to put in for, all kinds of claims and all that good stuff. So contact your VSO, your Disabled American Veterans, or your local office. And now, before we go, as I've always said before, if you're struggling with things, life, just things weighing on you, please reach out. Do if you haven't heard from a friend or a buddy, do a buddy check, please. Because bottom line is, while it's great that people are doing all these challenges and push-ups and all that stuff, in commemorating or saving veterans' lives and all that stuff, it still doesn't replace a life. So let's be preventive instead of reactive. How about that? So, and if you've been struggling, hit us up, hit somebody, hit a friend up, or call the VA, TRICARE, the Military One Source, or the suicide hotline. But just reach out to somebody, because nobody wants you to be a statistic. So great show today. Thanks to Kevin. I think this is a great point to index the show. So with that being said, I just want to say Daisuke, Aishtamas, index, and I am out. All right, get some. See you next week, everybody. Peace.